Hello everybody, I'm Elwirfy and today we are back playing some more Stories from Seoul, the Gun Dog. We just popped up out of the secret back ventilation shafts and now we're here talking to the chief. So let's go ahead and see if we can kind of bluff our way through and see if we can convince the chief to be on our side or not. You got permission from the captain to be out and about? Chief, Hold that thought, Lieutenant. Come here. Taking a hold of your upper arm with a grip far more powerful than you could have suspected, the chief begins to drag you away. You struggle to try to free yourself, but a combination of her raw strength and you being constantly off balance makes escape impossible. Chief, hey, give me a second to explain. Chief! Chief, come on! Stopping only to swipe her keycard through the terminal next to a door, the chief continues to drag you behind her as she marches into the newly unlocked area. Only once she's put some distance between her and the entrance does she stop, throwing you in front of her as she does. Alright, Lieutenant, we can talk now. Chief, damn it, I was trying to explain. Why do you think I brought you here, Lieutenant? The entrance to this department's wide open. I didn't want anyone catching sight of somewhere anyone catching sight of you somewhere you shouldn't be. Especially not if it gets me mixed up with this whole cluster. Fair enough. Impressed you even managed to find your way into the hallways, to be honest. Don't know how you got in there. Access from the corridors would. As the chief's attention is pulled away from you to the hypotheticals of your escape, you assume that, given she's not released the alarm, she isn't going to be dragging you back to your quarters or handing you over to the ensigns. Oh, someone hid this in my meal. I used it to... The screwdriver. Aha! So that's what Dees wanted it for. He told me he needed to replace the batteries on his cassette player. I told him to bring it to me and I could install some extra long military life issue ones. Never seen that guy so insistent about anything in his entire life. The entire time I've known him, though. So just handed it over in the end. Fair enough. Fair enough. Though I thought it was strange. No way would he pass up the chance to extend his player's lifespan. Should have known that he was planning something. Probably has no idea how screwed he is if he gets found out. Chief, listen. Take it easy, Lieutenant. I'm not going to throw you in front of the new captain or her goons. Honestly, I admire the guts you've got to make it this far. Have you got a brain to go with them, though? What's your plan? Are you going to try and raid the armory, take the ship back by force? Or you could try to sabotage it, buy yourself some time. Because you listen to me, Lieutenant. I swear to God, if you screw with anything in here, I don't care if it's to deal with Lord. Chief! I'm not going to mess with anything. I promise. Good to know. I've got a job here, and that's to keep this ship running, no matter who's at the helm, and if you get between me and the smooth operation of this vessel. Lord's punishment won't be half as creative as mine. To be fair, being shot is a pretty rough punishment. I bet she would probably throw you into the airlock, is my opinion on that, but who knows. Sorry. I just ate some food, and I did drink water beforehand, but for some reason I'm having coughs. But it'll be fine. Well, so, Lieutenant, what's your plan? Bartomeu and Quinn are locked up, Lord's taking control of the ship, and the crew's got enough skin in the game to push back. Let's hear it. You take a second to assess the chief's demeanor. You could see she was stressed out by the situation, but from what you made of her, she wasn't the sort of person who'd hand you over to Vanessa as soon as you were done explaining your plan. Alright, well, the way I figure, everyone's only going along with Lord because they've got more to lose than gain if they stick up for the captain. Her accusations, they kind of stack up if you don't look at it too closely. Both Captain Bartomeu and Commander Quinn were out of action when the Gun Dog went offline, and Quinn is the immediate suspect in the doctor's murder, but I know there's no way Quinn would have done it. There's no way she'd have done any of it. And if you think the captain wasn't around, I don't think that was on purpose, not with how I saw her. If we can disprove those accusations with evidence, we can show the rest of the crew it'll be them getting charged as traitors due to this mutiny. Once we do that, they'll side with us over Vanessa easily. Even the ensigns have more sense than to stick with her. Well, you might have a point there. As it is, Lord taking command could be seen by the JCF as a reasonable course of action, given what her actions are based on. But how do you plan on proving her wrong, Lieutenant? You're going to need some good evidence to undermine her arguments. Well, you thought the broad strokes of the plan through, but you hadn't really had time to consider the specifications. You've been too focused on navigating your way around the ship and finding out where you could access. I was hoping that I'd be able to get some help with that one, Chief. From you. Ooh. Okay. Nice try, Lieutenant, but that's not happening. What? Sorry to burst your bubble there, but there's no chance I'm gonna get wrapped up in Lord's games. If you want help, you're gonna need someone else. Right now, I've got to make sure these engines keep ticking over. If I'm lucky, I can find the chance to get the long-range communication system back up and running before we get to Europa Colony. Chief, wait! Without giving you a chance to even try to convince her otherwise, the Chief has already turned her back on you and is striding out of the door she dragged you through earlier. Chief! You chase after her, following her through the door away and grabbing her by the unyielding muscle of her upper arm. Chief, wait, just hear me out. In an instant, the Chief grabs your wrist, pulling your hand off her and angling your forearm away from you in a way that almost sends you to your feet. I told you, Lieutenant, I've got one job, making sure this ship keeps sailing. I've got nothing against you, nothing against what you're trying to do, but keep me out of it. These engines are still touch and go right now, so if we want to make it back to Europa, they're gonna need my full attention. I don't have the time to get dragged into this stupid little personal grudges or power plays. The Chief releases your wrist, which you draw back quickly. The pain from the awkward angle it had been held at, shooting up through your forearm. I like Lord as much as you do, and I'd love to see her get taken down a peg or two. Well, I'd love to take her down myself. With that, Chief turns on her heels and strides away towards the engine room. You chase after her, calling out to her to give you another chance to explain, but your pleas have no effect. You're being completely ignored. Eventually, she arrives at the entrance to one of the engine rooms, and before you can stop her, she steps through and closes it behind her, leaving you stuck on the opposite side. Damn it, Chief! I need your help. Oh, man. There's got to be something I can do to get her to listen to me. If I could talk to her one more time, I'm sure she'd come around. She'd probably be a lot more helpful than Dalton, that's for sure. No one to talk to right now. The central computer? The central computer? If I'm going to prove Cassie's innocent, I bet there's some important information on there that will help me do it. You approach the door that leads into the computer's control room and stop. You'd instinctively reach into your pocket to take out your keycard before remembering that Hansen had taken it from you just before he'd locked you in your quarters. Oh, right. Without that card, you have no way of getting through the door was sealed and shut. And the only way of opening it was the terminal to its side. What about Cassandra's key card? Hang on. You reach into your jacket pocket and feel the hard, thin edge of a key card. You knew that Hansen had taken yours, so this must be... You almost yell out when what? You almost yell out when Vanessa lays her hand on Cassie's hip, but you stop when you see her withdraw a keycard from Cassie's skirt pocket. Holding it between her thumb and forefinger with a flourish, she waves at you as she stands up and walks back over to you. The central computer can only be accessed by the captain or members of operations. Good luck getting in there without this. Oh, it's a flashback. Vanessa casually tosses you the card, with which you grab out of the air. You got Cassandra's keycard. You turn the card over and your hand a few more times. Yeah. Wait, I remember that. Haha! Thanks, Vanessa. With a smug sense of satisfaction, you swipe the card through the terminal next to the door and step through it into the small room beyond. Once inside, the door closes behind you, and you're left bathed in the noxious glow of the monitor's light. You tentatively lay your hands on the keyboard and think. Right. Now I'm here, I can... You step back with a sigh. I have no idea what I'm doing here. You dejectedly turn around and leave the room. Okay. Well, at least I know that I can get in if I need to, I guess. Okay, back to the crawlways. Wait. Can we go to the engines? Although it's almost redundant, given how noisy all of the nearby machinery is, not to mention the constant background and the hum of the engines, you approach the door quietly. Still smug at how Vanessa handed you the means to get around to your imprisonment, you swipe the card through the terminal next to the door and step into the engine room. Despite the vast size of this area, it doesn't take you long to spot the chief, who stood over a large control panel. Alright, let's try again. Yeah, I was about to say, we should probably talk to the chief before we go talk to the captain. You'd been surprised at how quickly Chief had dismissed you when you'd asked for help, although you assumed she might take a little bit of convincing. You weren't ready for her to completely reject your request like that. As you approach her, you take a few deep breaths, slowing your breathing as you feel your apprehension grow. Sure. You knew by how forceful her rejection had been that this wouldn't be easy, but at the same time, you knew that you needed to at least try to convince her to help you. Without the chief's assistance, carrying out your plan would be much more difficult. Whatever my plan is. Nearing the control panel that she stood at, you let out a final long exhalation and draw yourself up to full height, your attempt at appearing confident in order to convince yourself than the chief. Spatial distribution of the neuron flux shows the reaction rates within parameters. Now that should mean energy releases. Chief, please, I really need you to hear me out. Should mean the energy releases. For a moment, you consider reaching out to turn her towards you, but you know better than to try to assert yourself physically with the chief. Instead, you bring yourself closer than you're comfortable with and raise your voice. Chief, I know what you said, but please, I need your help. Lieutenant, I told you that I need to keep an eye on these engines. How do you even get in here? Crews not take your key card? Got to give you points for tenacity. I don't think there's any ducks or crawlways leading here since... Chief, that doesn't matter right now. I know you don't want to get mixed up in this, but I need your help. I know what I need to do, but I can't do it alone. I need you, Chief. The chief lets out a loud sigh that clearly communicates her exasperation at your persistence. You clench your teeth and take a deep breath before continuing. If you push your luck too far, you know that at the very least, you'll probably get physically thrown out of the room and the lock will be manually overridden. But at the same time, you're aware of how this isn't something you can simply give up on out of fear of upsetting someone. You're damned right I don't want to get involved, Lieutenant. I've got a ship to get back to Europa, and it doesn't matter who's on the bridge when it gets there, just that it gets there. Now, whatever has happened to these engines during that blackout isn't making that job easy. For the last time, Werfs, get out of my way and do what you've got to do, but leave me out of it. Or do I need to get you out of the way myself? With a single step, the chief is right in front of you, looming over you, her bulk filling your field of vision. You instinctively go to take a step back, but stop just before you do, mustering all your confidence to stand your ground against the chief's imposing physicality. Squaring your shoulders and widening your stance, you do your best to assert yourself. Chief, I want to get the gun dog back to Europa just as much as you do. But you know it's not about the ship. It's about the people on board. What good is getting us all back to Europa if half the crew is going to be put on trial for something that they didn't do? What's the point in making sure the engines are working if the ship could be ripped apart by some enemy machine all because our pilots are playing security guard and there's no one to stop it? You don't look after this ship for its own sake. You look after this ship because of the crew, Chief. You know that. Well, duh. For a moment, you feel a little flutter of relief when within your chest, but you focus, not wanting to get too far ahead of yourself. It looks like the chief is coming around to you, but you've not convinced her yet. I know that you've got important work to do right now here, but if we don't deal with Vanessa now, we can't guarantee there'll even be a gun dog to get back to Europa. Besides, we all know your work is so good that these engines won't go offline if you leave them for a few hours, and you've made sure of that. If I had better options, I wouldn't be asking you, Chief, but I need you, please. You're telling me that you're doing this for everyone on this ship, Lieutenant, not just you and Quinn. That's right, Chief. Obviously, Commander Quinn's important to me, but I'm the ship's security officer. It's my job to make sure everyone stays safe. I can't let them down like this. I can't. The chief inhales, though, through closed teeth and furrows her brow. Everything's stable right now, so no sign of unusual output. I could... Why do this now, Lieutenant? If you think Quinn and the captain can be proved innocent, why don't you just wait till we get back to Europa, bring it up at the tribunal? The chief raises a good point. Your intent was to prove Cassie, the captain, and yourself innocent. By rights, the tribunal would investigate this mutiny. Would be perfect place for that. But you knew it wouldn't be so simple. I get what you're saying, Chief, but Vanessa would have thought of that already. She wouldn't have done this if she didn't think she'd get away with it. It'll be like that time on the bridge earlier. You know what her storyline... you know that her story won't line up with what happened, and I bet you that she'll have adjusted the reports to support her case. That's why I need to find this evidence now. Even if I can't convince the rest of the crew to get Bartholomews back in the captain's seat, at least I have something to use at the tribunal. Right. The longer we wait, the more chance that evidence gets adjusted or deleted. Seeing the chief taking her time to consider your points, you know you're on something. Even if she doesn't, do you think they'll listen to someone who's been set up as a traitor? If Vanessa's story even seems like it holds water, they'll probably just write it off. But we don't need to let it get that far. I'm sure if we can show the rest of the crew that Vanessa's story will fall apart as soon as we get to Europa, they'll refuse to serve under her. Even Hansen and Haru won't stand up for her if they know it'll be their necks on the line. That's a good point. With everyone on her side, we'll stand a chance if that thing reactivates. Otherwise, we might never make it back. You make some good points, Lieutenant. The elation you feel at that response almost makes you giddy. A feeling of temper with pragmatism. You can't quite be sure you've convinced the chief yet. But are you sure you want to be doing this? What? Of course. I need to... You're locked up now, but no one's going to blame security for standing up for the captain, especially after everything you've done. You certain you want to be sticking your neck out like this? I wouldn't be here if I wasn't, Chief. Might feel that way now, Wirfs. But step away for a second, give it some thought. Sometimes, when you're trying to fix something, the real solution isn't obvious till you take some time to think it over. Might be other options, you know? I want you to make sure you're serious about doing this, Lieutenant. You're serious. You know that. Part of you wants to tell the chief that here and now. But at the same time, you know that you don't want to risk pushing her too far. You've almost won her over, and if you look like you haven't thought this through, you might undo all that you've done to convince her. You breathe out and let your shoulders drop, letting some of the tension that you'd built up leave your body. Yeah, okay, Chief. I'll make sure this is what I want to do. Thanks for hearing me out. No sweat, Lieutenant. Seems like your heart's in the right place. It is in the right place. Just make sure that your head is on, too. Fair enough. Without hesitation, the chief turns back to the control panel she'd been working at and resumes whatever it is she'd been doing before you'd interrupted her. Maybe there were other options, but could any of them be as good as getting the chief to help you out? You'd have to give that some thought. So if we go to the task, find an ally. I wonder if we're supposed to pick the chief or Dalton or the captain. Truthfully, I think the captain might be the best choice because she would have the most access to things and would be able to gather evidence the best. That's my logic. I think I want to go to the captain's quarters, and I think I'm going to talk to the captain. I really think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've been thinking about it like, of everyone who's most valuable, if the way we're going to win is gathering evidence, I think the captain will have the best access to things. Alright, Lieutenant, I hadn't expected you to return to me so quickly. Have you decided this is really what you want to do? Yes, I need your help. You instinctively straighten your posture and take a formal stance as the captain's eyes focus intently on you. There might be other options to handle this, you think. There was the chief, who probably knew more secrets about the gun dog than anyone. Dalton's knowledge of the ship's mechanisms and functionality could certainly come in useful. But when it came to knowledge of the ship, the JCF, and how to use their authority, no one would be able to compare to the Captain Bartholomews. Yes, ma'am. I agree, and I agree with that logic, too. I feel like she's going to know the most when it comes to the tribunal and legal stuff, because she's a captain, and she used to be an admiral. If I'm going to rescue Cassie, if we're going to get the ship back under your control, I'm going to need your help. You're confident about that? Yes, ma'am. I can't think of anyone better. I see. If that's the case, Lieutenant Werfs, I hope you have a plan. This course of action is not one I'd been considering until quite recently. You pause for a moment. Years of naval conditioning had instilled you an instinct to defer to authority, but in this case the traditional power dynamic wasn't in effect. Glancing over at the captain's shoulder, you also see the mostly empty bottle of whiskey. Considering how much had drunk you were, you surprised how alert and focused the captain seemed. Considering how much had been drunk, you were surprised. Okay. But all things considered, it might be for the best if you're the one that calls the shots, making use of the captain's knowledge when necessary. Right. I think in this game, like technical skill, that's like okay, and like knowing secrets to like the ship, that's cool. But I think her professional knowledge ultimately will trump out at the end of this. Right. First things first. We proved that Cassie had nothing to do with this. That's fair. That's exactly what I would say too. Gotta save our girlfriend. That's hugely important. Our main priority is proving that she isn't a murderer. If we can do that, then everything afterwards should be easy. There must be plenty of logs confirming that what's happened has all been coincidence. If we can prove your innocence to the crew, we might be able to get the ship back before we ever get to Europa. I see. I suppose that stands to reason. Well then, Lieutenant, lead the way. Before we go, Captain, are you sure there isn't anything in here that's useful? Once we leave your quarters, we probably won't be coming back. It'd be too risky with Hansen stood outside. The ensign was very particular about relieving me of my access card, keys, and tokens, and the JCF is not in the business of giving out spares. I can't get into my desk to get the access codes for the ship. The captain turns on her heels and heads towards her bedroom. You follow, stopping at the threshold between the two areas, and watch as she pulls out open the top drawer of her dresser. Whilst the drawer is full of clothing, the captain ignores it, instead reaching underneath towards the back of the unit. With a matter-of-fact emotion, she pulls something out and presents it to you. Oh, hell yeah. I believe this might come in useful. Oh, fuck yeah, that's way better. Oh my god. You can't help but be taken back by the captain's complete disregard for procedure. For the same reason that all weapons on board are kept in the Army, there's absolutely zero allowance for crew members to have personal weapons on board. Yeah, but she's a captain. She's a captain and she knows what's up. This is fantastic. Captain, that's... It's against regulations for crew members to bring weapons on board. Even having that stashed away could... Is that so, Lieutenant? Do you intend to report me? I thought not. Now, Lieutenant, as before, please lead the way. Right, sure. All right, let's go kill some bastards. If that's just the way we're doing it, that wasn't what I wanted. I was hoping to just convince people, but I'll gun everyone down if it means our safety. For Cassie, I mean, we'll do anything. Who cares? You head over to the floor panel, taking care to avoid the puddle of whiskey, and lower yourself in. Oh, we're going to sneak around. Turning around, you offer a hand to the captain, who takes it elegantly and follows you into the crawlway. You'll need a duck for this, Captain. Following your instruction, the captain squats down, and you do the same. Much like your own quarters, you then quietly slide the floor panel into place. You find the whole process much easier this time around, and with a series of clicks, you're left in the darkness. All right then, Captain, let's go. Due to the amount of times you'd had to stop to guide the captain through the darkness, seemingly to pause at every other corner to ensure she was still behind you, returning to the hub between the various crawlways takes you longer than hoped. Still, you'd made it, and eventually, now that you'd had the captain on your side, you'd finally be able to do something to prove her and Cassie innocent and regain control of the ship. You take the opportunity afforded to you by the larger area you're in to get off your hands and knees and sit against one of the walls, rubbing your palms together to relieve the numbness that had come with crawling for so long. Why don't we take a quick break here, Captain? Are you sure about that, Lieutenant? You were quite impassioned about this plan of yours in my quarters. I'd have thought nothing would have stopped you from proving the Lieutenant Commander innocent. You sigh as you knead the muscles at the base of your neck in an attempt to work out some tension that had been building up in them from all the crawling. That's what I was going to say. Like, he's probably just hurting. I mean, we're not stopping the plan. The plan is definitely going. But it's like, you know, people need to rest. What you what you didn't want to tell the captain was that after you'd left her quarters behind, you realized that you had no idea where to begin that particular objective. I was thinking that this would be a good opportunity to discuss how we were going to approach this. Well, I wouldn't object to a brief pause. With a level of decorum that surprises you considering both circumstances and the amount that you knew she drunk, the captain brings her knees together and positions her legs to one side whilst bringing herself into an upright sitting position. Let me know when you're willing to share the details with me. Do I need to go bring other people? I'm confused. Just discuss your plan with the captain. Okay, talk. Yeah, let's talk. You take a deep breath and hold on to it. You know what you need to do. There's no sense in delaying it any longer. You release your breath and turn to the captain. There was no sense in feeling embarrassed that you didn't have a completely thought plan. It wasn't as if she could discipline you for not being prepared for duty right now. Captain? Oh. Yes, Lieutenant? Are we going over your plan now? You furrow your brow for a moment. Had the captain been falling asleep? Yes, that's right. Well, go ahead, Lieutenant. I'll be happy to provide input where necessary. Are you all right, ma'am? Quite all right, Lieutenant. Why do you ask? You lock eyes with the captain. You were confident that she had been drifting off again. Although you were effectively on equal terms right now, you were still worried about instigating any conflict. If all went to plan, she would be your captain again after all. Just checking before we begin. I appreciate the concern, Lieutenant. Now, carry on. With a sigh, you begin. The main thing we need to do is disprove Lore's justification for accusing you and Commander Quinn. Once we've done that, we can tell the rest of the crew to get them back on our side. And how would we be going about doing that? Well, you do remember what she said about the bridge? On the bridge. Not particularly. You may recall that when Lieutenant Lord was justifying herself, I was busy trying to retrieve the wind that Ensign Cruz had so thoroughly knocked out of me. Ah, right. Well, a big part of it is that she thought you and Commander Quinn were purposely absent during the blackout. Did she now? As unfortunate as the timing was, I can assure you that it wasn't my intent to be indisposed like that. But we can deal with that. But we can deal with that because there will be records. Both incidents were reported to the doctor. He would have recorded them and written them up. His notes would show that both of your conditions were genuine. If we can find those, then that's the first step to proving that Vanessa's justification for mutiny doesn't hold water. I feel like hard records are more important than justification. That's what's going to hold up in a court. Because if we're planning to take this to a court, right? So our first stop would be to go to the sick bay. There's one issue with that, Lieutenant. You lean forward. You just started feeling positive about this plan, and now the captain was throwing a problem in your way. As frustrating as it was good to deal with these things now, rather than have the problem them sprung up on you later. You thought, what's that? If you'd allow me to play devil's advocate for a moment, surely if there was a conspiracy at the highest level of the crew, then documents could be faked to support it. If I was Lieutenant Lord, I know that I'd make sure my case was as watertight as possible. You cross your arms, considering the captain's point. But if the records were going to be faked, the doctor would need to be on it, right? He's the only one with access to the medical files and enough medical knowledge to know what he would need to be recorded. Why would you kill him if he was on it? That's easy, Lieutenant. There would be one less liability when it came to keeping things a secret. At least that's the way I would see it if I was indeed part of a nefarious plot to sacrifice the gun dog in the name of an enemy weapon test. You cross your arms and lean back against the cool steel of the crawlway wall. It was frustrating, but the captain was right. If he knew Vanessa, this is exactly the kind of thing she would have considered. Now that you mention it, Lord also accused the commander of murdering the doctor. At the time, I thought she was just looking to pin it on someone, but if she thinks your records might prove you innocent... A long silence follows, and the captain tilts her head back, supporting it with a crawl wall. You wait for her to respond, but instead she remains still breathing heavily. You mull over what the captain said and how this changes things. Even if that isn't the case, it doesn't make a difference. It just means that we need the medical records and we need to prove that the commander didn't kill the doctor. To do both those things, we're going to need to visit the sickbay. A sound justification, Lieutenant. Lead the way. How do we get to the sickbay? Let's move back to engineering. Moving the grain aside, you emerge into the engineering department and dust yourself down whilst you wait for the captain to appear. You watch as she rises unsteadily, placing one hand on grating and another on her stomach. Are you alright, Captain? Give me a minute, Lieutenant. Ma'am, what's wrong? Just a minute, Lieutenant. You back off, keeping one eye on the captain and the other on your surroundings, just in case someone should discover you. She's clearly drunk, just for the record. I feel like she's drunk. But we are going to end it here while we give the captain a chance to recover in between episodes. So thank you all for watching. As always, guys, I'm Elwirfy. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will definitely see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.